Okay, so a very warm welcome, everybody, to our session, Community Equity and Resilience. This is a series of events we are organizing in collaboration with GoGN and the Knowledge Equity Network, CAN. And we are delighted to have with us today Dr. Tafadzwa Mushonga, Dr. Vasiliki Kioupi, to discuss a very interesting and valuable initiative that they both co-led. Tafadzwa is from the University of Pretoria and Vasiliki from the University of Leeds, and we work together on this initiative that both of them will be sharing with us. I'll first ask Tafadzwa perhaps to say a few more words about who she is and where she's working. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And I'll say hi from Pretoria, sunny Pretoria. I wish I could just lend you some of the sunshine here because it's so much. I'm a research fellow at the Center for the Advancement of Scholarship at the University of Pretoria. I lead the Environmental Humanities Project, and this project is really organized around the theme of extraction, and social justice is one of the key themes that we are interested in. So when I was invited to this collaboration with colleagues from Leeds, and they were talking about the social justice theme, I thought, oh, this is quite interesting because it's something that we are already, kind of working on. So I was very quick to, to want to be part of this project. So I think I will stop for now, and we will talk more about the collaboration as we go. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tafadzwa, and handing over to Vasiliki.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for participating in this webinar. I'm really excited to be here. I am Vasiliki. I'm a lecturer in sustainable curriculum. I work for the Sustainability Research Institute, University of Leeds. My main role is actually to lead a strand of the university strategy on embedding sustainability in the curriculum and in student opportunities. But I'm also teaching and doing research in education for sustainable development. With regards to the social justice jam, I come from a sustainability and education background, and I really wanted to partner with someone with a social justice background, and that made Tafadzwa the ideal partner for this project. So I think we managed to co-create something that had a transformative aspect to it for the people involved and for the communities as well. But yes, let's say more about it later.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you, for making the time to be with us. And we are very much looking forward to your contribution here and having a conversation. And speaking about conversation, we would like to involve also everybody who is here today. So please share any thoughts, ideas, questions you have in the chat, but you can also use the Q&A. I'm Christine Daranzi from the School of Education, and I'm also a senior lead of the Knowledge Equity Network. And we can move on. Thank you. Okay, I'll hand over to our colleague, Tom Fries, who's the CAN producer and relationship manager, to say a few words about the network. Thank you.
Hi, Chrissy. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. So the Knowledge Equity Network was co-founded by the University of Pretoria and the University of Leeds back in April 2023. So it's really great to have Tafadzwa joining us from Pretoria and Vasiliki from Leeds today. We were set up to tackle, from a higher education perspective, the UN Sustainability Development Goals, and to engender collaboration, particularly around open education, open research, open access, and reward and recognition in the higher education sector. As you'll see from this slide, at the moment we have 423 individual signatories to our Declaration on Knowledge Equity. 28 higher education institutions and 51 organizations signed up, and we'd really welcome you to check out the declaration on our website, and also to sign it if it's something that you agree with, and to join us in collaborations in the future and perhaps contribute to a future session such as this one. We're really delighted to be working with GoGN collaboratively on these sessions, this series that we're presenting. And that's everything from me. Thanks, Chrissy.
Thank you so much, Tom. And we can move to a brief introduction to GoGN by Dr. Beck Pitt, who is one of the co-directors of GoGN. And before Beck starts, I have to say that I am a proud penguin myself, an alumni. So Over to you, Beck. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Chrissy, for that warm welcome. And thanks, Tom and everyone. It's wonderful to be here and part of today's session. And thanks so much to everyone who's joined or who's watching this in as well. So welcome, everybody. As Chrissy said, my name is Beck Pitt. I'm one of the co-directors of GoGN, the Global OER Graduate Network. And we support doctoral researchers around the world working on open education related topics. We have about 200 members in 29 different countries around the world, and a wider community of practice of around 260-70 people. Anyone can join GoGN. You can be part of this community, and we warmly invite you to find out more at the link shown there on the QR code at the top of the screen. We're absolutely thrilled to be collaborating with Ken on this webinar series, and yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's participated and been part of it. It's been absolutely fantastic. I'm going to hand back now to Chrissy, who's going to tell you more about some of our fantastic webinars that are coming up. This is the fourth of the series. So back over to you, Chrissy, and thanks everyone for joining today.
Thank you so much, Beck. And I think we have Rob here, Dr. Rob Farrow with us today, who is the other co-director. So please reach out to both of them via the chat if you're interested in GoGN and would like to find out more information. Like I said, the community is special. So yes, like Beck said, we had already a series of sessions already. As you can see here, this is the fourth one. I think the first one is probably not included here, or is it? Rob did an interesting session around the philosophy of equity, and today what we have is we are going to look at the practical application and experience based on the example that Vasiliki and Tafadzwa will share with us. So we can see in an applied situation, how is the lived experience? What can we learn from that? And you will see and hear honest accounts of that collaboration, to what it led and where is it going to go in the future. Thank you. So the next one, so this is not the last one, but as you can see, later in October, on the 22nd here, we're going to meet again for another session on equity, solidarity, and resistance. That sounds quite polemic, so be prepared for that and come along to this as well if this is of interest. Thank you. Okay, and I think there is one more slide, I think, which we would like to share before Vasiliki and Tafadzwa start their contribution. And that was the one with the JAM output. So we have been very productive. I was the academic lead for what we call Discovery. These are extracurricular modules at the University of Leeds, and we were tasked to create alternative formats for students to learn, where they could bring the extracurricular in the curriculum. And one of the designs we explored, prototyped, and created a blueprint was the JAM. That is now available as an open press book, and you can follow the link that we will share in the chat if you would like to find out more about the design. It's openly available, as I said, as an open press book. Thank you so much, and we'll invite Vasiliki and Tafadzwa to share their slides with us and engage in a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. I hope you can see the slides I'm sharing now.
Not now, yes.
Oh, great.
All good.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Chrissy. Just for the participants, I wanted to say I will share some slides with a background information on the JAM, just to familiarize you with the process, how we delivered it, and how we evaluated it, and then we will go to reflections. I just wanted to share this slide first. It is actually a drawing made from a participant from the JAM, from Pretoria. So this is a drawing that depicts Ron's view of the community of Seacroft in Leeds. We will discuss more about it later, but you can see how the community of Seacroft is trying to seek funding to actually help empower the community members, and especially the young people in the community. funding was a central topic in the JAM in order to empower communities, and it came up in both contexts, Mamelodi in Pretoria and Seacroft in Leeds. But yes, Tafadzwa and I myself have introduced ourselves, so I can go to the next slide. So the JAM, the Social Justice JAM, was an initiative that was developed by the University of Leeds, the Discovery Delivery Group, but in collaboration with the University of Pretoria as an academic partner and two community partners, two community-based organizations, LS14 Trust in Leeds and Mothong African Heritage in Mamelodi, Pretoria, South Africa. So what is a JAM? I have a reference from the literature. So it is an event of a short duration. It is an intensive event. In our case, it was an online event of 3 days between the 10th and 12th of June. It invited people across contexts and across boundaries. So we had students, staff, and community members participating. We really wanted everyone to bring their own perspective on how we can solve community challenges related to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we received funding actually from the Horizons Institute to organize the JAM. We had 78 participants who registered. We started with many participants on day 1. This declined in day 2 and 3, but it was not a big decline. So participants were engaged. This is a snapshot of what happened in the JAM. But before the JAM, we had many months, more than 6 months, planning and organizing the JAM, including identifying the partners, working with them, trying to develop even memorandums of understanding, to clarify how we work together, how we share funding. We will reflect on those aspects later. But you can see what were the key aims of the JAM. We wanted to bring Global North and Global South together in conversation through the JAM. We identified 2 challenges, one in Leeds and one in Mamelodi. So they were to do with community space, how we access, use, and manage it. The challenge in Mamelodi was with respect to a park. It was actually a former dam site, and it was converted by Dr. Mabena, who is an indigenous healer and leader of the community of Mamelodi. It was converted into a garden, but there were challenges of maintaining that garden, having funding for volunteers to work in the garden, and things like that. And then we had Seacroft. They had a similar challenge. They wanted to reclaim a building from the council in order to transform it into a youth center. And they really wanted support with that. We used as a group a human-centered thinking, design thinking approach. So we really wanted to empathize first with the communities that had the social justice challenges. And then we really wanted to broaden our perspectives on how we can include those challenges as part of the JAM. We looked at previous JAMs, including Global Goals JAMs. And then we tried to identify a methodology by which we can actually help participants meaningfully engage with the challenges. So we used the FISH model, the focus, investigate, and share. So on the first day of the JAM, we focused on the challenges. We discussed with representatives from the communities to understand the challenges better. The second day, participants investigated more about the challenges to collect more data, to collect more views, more stories. And then the last day was the sharing. When they brought together all the experience and all the data and all the information, they shared some views on how these challenges could be tackled creatively. So the learners could actually participate in 2 ways. They could, let's say, join as individual learners, learning from the workshops and the talks from the communities that we had, but also they could participate in the afternoons as members of groups. And we also had facilitators. The facilitators were students and staff, members from the 2 universities, Leeds and Pretoria, to help them navigate the process. And we developed a handbook. All of this material is available in the press book that Chrissy shared earlier. So we had to develop partnerships within the university as well. We'll talk about how this worked in Leeds and Pretoria later. But at the University of Leeds, we had to work with Digital Education Service to generate videos for the 2 communities. For example, we partnered with the Knowledge Equity Network with the University Communication Services, so participants could actually be reached and motivated to join, with a sustainability service, with student sustainability architects and many other student groups to co-design and co-deliver the JAM, even in the evaluation of the JAM. So there were some solutions suggested by the groups. The groups were actually very cross-disciplinary groups and cross-cultural. So it included student, staff, community members from both locations, Leeds and Pretoria. So some of the solutions you can see here, there was a youth-led solution, the small moments of connection, shared futures, the understanding of we operate in different contexts with maybe different social justice issues, but we can find a commonality in those problems. And maybe if young people can come together from both locations and share their everyday experiences in the communities, they can co-create something further beyond the JAM. And the second was empower the communities through collaborative funding and knowledge exchange. So how the two communities can come together, ask for funding, and identify funders who could fund this project, and exchange knowledge, because we actually acknowledge in the JAM that communities have knowledge, and this is powerful, and it must be shared, and it must be shared with academia and the world more broadly. And the last solution was the learning journeys. So in each community, identify stakeholders around a specific problem. Maybe it has to do with funding or engaging with policymakers or motivating community members actually to become engaged, or setting up social enterprises in the communities, and then starting to understand how this can work together and bring the solution. So the participants felt empowered in this journey. And as I said, they identified that there are many ways of knowing, and academic knowledge actually is not the only one that exists there, especially for the students. That was true. We evaluated the JAM. This is my last slide. We used a new form of evaluation, the fail space grid. It was actually almost like a table. We had 5 dimensions: profile, purpose, process, practice, and participation. We co-designed the definitions for these 5 dimensions, and then we assessed whether the JAM was a failure or a success. So imagine it's a spectrum from total failure to total success. I think we had agreement in most of the dimensions, apart from purpose, which we'll discuss in the reflection with the University of Pretoria, Then we had some focus groups and interviews with people who participated, with facilitators and co-organizers. We identified some important themes from the JAM, that connections and community was what made the JAM stand out and what enabled the learning experience. You can see a quote on the right-hand side. So forming connection even over long distances and even online can bring us together in a profound and meaningful way. That was really important to acknowledge in the JAM. We felt that we developed some longer-term connections with everyone involved. Creativity and curriculum design. So we thought that the different ways people engage, through drawing, through music, through storytelling, actually enabled them to come together and produce something meaningful for them and for the communities. Social justice was a big topic. It talked about how programs of universities need to open to communities and need to actually lead to the improvement of community life. And there is one quote from Dr. Mabena: "Each one teach one." So that was inspiring. And if I wanted to summarize the JAM in one thing, it would be that each person must pass something that they learn to another person, so they can actually form a collective, and then they can progress together. Mm-hmm. And the last thing was reciprocity in knowledge sharing. So we really need to acknowledge that we really need to be open to every kind of knowledge, wherever it comes from, because it actually brings something to the puzzle of complexity of solving social justice challenges. I think this was the background for the JAM, but let's go to the reflections. I think this is the most important part. I think I will invite Tafadzwa to start first with the reflections.
Yeah. Thanks, Vasiliki, for that excellent kind of summary of what transpired over 3 days in June of last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was June last year, right? It's been a
Yes.
while. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give some reflection on this collaboration, which I think was really a collaboration that was happening across many contexts, you know, the global north versus the global south context. We had academic context versus the community context, and obviously just, you know, the dialogues that happened across disciplines and across, you know, different positionalities. I think that the social justice jam created dialogues across these different contexts. And I think it really did open up a space where these differences were acknowledged and also engaged with as a source of, what I say, creating and thinking, and you know, thinking and creating knowledge. And what these differences also did, I think, was to allow us to see how environmentalism and justice are really shaped by where we stand, both in terms of our geographical location, our academic kind of positions and spaces, and what we have lived as human beings, you know, our identities, our privileges, and so on. And we could sense this through the presentations and the various talks that that were shared by the Seacroft community and the Mamelodi communities. And in those presentations, I think we had different vocabularies. We had different methods of understanding environmental problems, social justice problems. We had different methods of interventions. And I think each one teach one, as Vasiliki has said, is one of the vocabularies and methods that kind of stayed with most of us after the 3 days. And we also had different challenges at community levels. And Vasiliki has kind of touched on those challenges. And all this we managed to share through this social justice jam, which I really think was well designed to capture the different ways of thinking. But of course, there were challenges. I mean, one cannot expect a project that is crossing continents, crossing institutions, crossing disciplines and other divides, not to have challenges. And these challenges, I would not say that they had to do with the way the structure of the GEM per se. I'd say maybe from the UP side, from the University of Pretoria side, and our perspective, I would say that the main challenge, I guess, was not really being sort of attached to the concept of jamming as much as our counterparts at Leeds were, because you know, they were involved in the conceptualization of the jam, in the design of the jam, and we were kind of invited to collaborate after the collaboration. Of course, there were efforts to, you know, get us up to speed, to understand, but we were not really like part of the process to, you know, from the beginning. So we didn't quite feel like the jam was our thing too. And I remember that we kept on referring to it as the Leeds project. So for example, if I wanted to follow up on something, how far are we with the flyers to advertise the social justice? Which one? Oh, you mean the Leeds project? So just always like the Leeds project. And there wasn't like that kind of, it's our thing too. And I think most of us, not having this background in education and curriculum design, we really fell short in selling the GEM and its value to the UP academic community and to the Mamelodi community as well, because they also had to attend. I would say because of that, the attendance from the UP Mamelodi side was not as great as we would have wanted it to be. But when I look back at the 3 days, I do not even think that quantity was an issue. I think what really matters is the quality of engagement and the discussions that emerged during those days. And I also think that the team in Leeds has really done a good job in sustaining that momentum, because it's very easy to, you know, to forget a project, once you think it's done, it's very easy to forget and move to the next project. But there has been ongoing engagements such as this event. We also have a number of collaborations through publications that have been going on. I think we have one publication and another one coming, if I'm not mistaken. And we have been also being involved in a discussion on how we can expand the jam, picking from some of the sentiments and ideas that emerged from the first jam, particularly from the inputs that came from the community members on how they feel the project should move forward. So I think all in all, the jam was really a good start. It was a great start to something that could potentially become a much bigger project. And I'm just kind of looking forward to what's next after this. Yeah.
Thank you, Tafadzwa. So may I add a few things? Yeah, collaboration across contexts. First thing for us. Yes, I need to mention that the funding was received by the University of Leeds, and I think this dictated how it was run and how the University of Leeds was more engaged than the University of Pretoria. But before I move to that, we received the funding because we really wanted to design an educational program that would be aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, that would bring this dimension of we are moving beyond the university, we are offering a transformative learning experience. And we started thinking about potential collaborations. And I need to say that sometimes the university is not ready for developing this kind of collaborations. I mean, we had to spend a lot of time trying to identify how do we collaborate, who do we collaborate with. The university does not have a framework to allow you to do this in a very easy way, in a very straightforward way. But through other groups, we received suggestions, and eventually we reached Tafadzwa and the University of Pretoria. And I think it was a good decision, because we may have had the structure ready, as Tafadzwa said, because we had developed an initial design for the jam. We shared it with students and staff at the university, we refined it, but then it was like a container that really wanted for a spark to become something real and something transformative. And when I met Tafadzwa and we started discussing, I said, yes, social justice is what is missing from what we have developed as a design. Yes, I know we had more engagement from the University of Leeds. I mean, because this was part of an institutional strategy, people were more aligned to it. And when we asked for people to become engaged, they were more, they would say yes more easily, I guess, in this kind of collaboration. So yeah, in terms of collaboration challenges, we only met online. That was a challenge, because you really appreciate someone online, but then I had an opportunity to meet Tafadzwa in person later after the jam. And, we had developed this kind of connection during the jam, and it was like I met an old friend when we met in person. But I think this collaboration needs to have an in-person element at some point, because you really need to maintain the momentum, as we were saying. You really need to know that these people that you had these meaningful conversations are actual people, and you can do other things, you can progress. We had challenges in terms of the platform we used. We used Microsoft Teams as an online platform. It is not very inclusive outside a specific university context, because those platforms are developed to maintain the security of a specific university, let's say. It was not easy to invite externals. They could not see all of the content. We pivoted to other solutions to enable community members and even University of Pretoria colleagues and staff to join. We really needed to consider that they had not used it in that way before, and we did training sessions to help with that. And then there was another challenge that I really needed to mention here, is the challenge of developing a connection with communities. I believe that the University of Pretoria is more advanced than the University of Leeds, because they have a longer term collaboration with local communities and a transdisciplinary approach in doing community engagement. The University of Leeds is kind of new in this area. We identified a community partner in Seacroft, We had a lot of barriers to overcome initially because it was the first encounter with this partner. We really needed to build trust, and we are still working with them to maintain that trust. I now know the people from LS14 Trust much better than in the beginning. In the beginning, you know, they were very honest with us and very open in saying, why do you want us to come on board this project? What do we have to benefit? I mean, we are working with people on the ground. They have real problems. Academia has never before reached to us for something that will benefit us. And we really needed to develop this kind of trust with this community. But as Tafadzwa said, we saw the jam as the start of something, not the end of something. Because if we had seen it as a one-off thing, then all of the partners would have every right to say, okay, you came here, you extracted from us, and now nothing is happening. But we are still continuing the collaboration. We have a successful collaboration through a fund with LS14 Trust. We are applying with another one with the University of Pretoria. And we are still trying to maintain these connections through, we published a paper together, we submitted a book chapter, now we are submitting a second publication. We have made a few presentations like this one, collaboratively, and we will also try to identify new funding opportunities. We had a meeting 4 months after the jam to discuss what is next. And from that meeting, we identified things that happened. We also allowed some of the students from the jam, because I really wanted to say that students were central to the jam and they benefited a lot. This was the outcome of the evaluation. We asked them to present at a few conferences and events, and it was a really good experience for them as students to reflect on the learning, develop their own stories for the jam and share those stories with other people. Yes, I think, I don't know, Tafadzwa, if you wanted to add anything in this.
I think I just wanted to emphasize the point that you raised on working with communities and how much it really needs time. It needs patience to build a relationship with communities, because we often assume that they are just an object that's out there and we can just go and say, look, we have this, can we work? And they will quickly jump in. They have life going on. They have things that, you know, they have stuff going on. So you really need to be patient and, you know, gain their trust. And I think what really made it easy for this collaboration, when Vasiliki approached me and I immediately said, no, what you're talking about, we already have a community, because we're already working with this community in other aspects of our environmental humanities project. And so it was quite easy for me to just drive there and say, look, we have another initiative. We're friends in Leeds who want us to collaborate, and it might be also an opportunity for you to meet other communities in Leeds. And by the way, Dr. Mabena was asking about when they are going to meet, you know, the Seacroft community. They're really looking forward to the continuation of this project. So it does really take some time for you to build that and keep working on it. If, you know, like you've said, that Leeds is a bit behind, but at least we have started something, and you need to just keep working on it and just building, you know, project after project after small. You don't, it's a term that we use here, like small. You don't have to just jump big into it. Take your time, be patient, listen to the communities, what they want and how they want things done. Do not impose your academic, and, you know, listen to them and work with them according to how they want, their pace. And I think that way, such collaborations, because I think most institutions now are really emphasizing social impact of the research that we do as academics. So you cannot really have the social impact if you're not working with where the impact should be felt. And, you know, so it really does, it's something that's quite important to you know, to just build that trust with communities. And of course, yeah, I'd really not mention the challenge with technology. I think that universities in the global north, and would say the first word, are quite really ahead with technology. So we were kind of behind with, we do have Microsoft Teams like at the University of Pretoria, but it's like Vasiliki said, we'd never like really used in the way we were now using it in the jam. But luckily there was an opportunity for us to get trained, for all the postdoctoral fellows and other students that were participating from UP to kind of receive that training, which really helped a lot. And I'm sure that they also kind of gained some skills that they did not have on, using this. So I think in the future, such exchange of, if there's a new technology and you feel like, not just necessarily just the research that we do on a data, but just exchange of what's new, what's happening, how do we move forward? Now there's AI, we need to understand, how can we use this? What are you doing there? What can we exchange, so that we can move along at the same pace? And when we meet to do such kinds of projects, we're kind of on the same kind of level of understanding how things work. Yeah.
Thank you, Tafadzwa. Yes,
Yeah.
I completely
you.
agree with you on all of these aspects. Yes, I learned a lot from the jam. Just one final thing before Chrissy wants to ask something. I learned a lot from the jam, and especially in managing relationships with people. For example, we developed this open educational resource, which is great. The community sometimes does not have access to academic publications, but even if they had access, they are written in a language that is inaccessible. But I would go even further than this OER we developed to something co-created with the communities that is even more accessible to them. It could be drawings like some of the participants developed. It could be poems, it could be music. Some people sang songs. It could be something that expresses the essence of the jam in another way that is more accessible to people who are not academics. I think this is another reflection I had. And because I'm continuing the collaboration with the local community, they really see the value of academia in listening to them and adapting to their own needs and priorities. And I think if we co-create something in the end that benefits both, I think this is a win that we can actually achieve.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, both of you, for this honest and very rich account of a very diverse experience. And Tafadzwa, what you said there, the Leeds project, it is a bit painful to hear, but this is a reality. And we were working under tight timelines also, because we tried to do it within a secondment, and we couldn't, and we didn't really have that extremely important time, like you say, for relationship building. But it's great to hear that despite these challenges, and thank you for your honesty again, there has been some value in this, and that the University of Pretoria and the University of Leeds saw it as a starting point for a collaboration. And I'm very pleased to hear that these are not just empty words, that it's actually happening, and that's really important. So I would like to ask you, okay, we can't change what happened, we can learn from it, and your reflections already demonstrate quite a lot of points, of things you have or we have learned from that experience. Where do you see the collaboration perhaps going in a more equitable way? I appreciate what you said about the design, Tafadzwa, and maybe what could be different in the future? Let's say there is another initiative where the two institutions come together and also want to involve communities as well. How can this happen in a more equitable way? Thank you.
So I think it's really about starting together, right? Starting together, if it's be it conceptualizing an idea or designing or whatever. But I think the key point for me there is just starting together, and not then be invited to join a project that has sort of started. And I think we are beginning to see ourselves kind of correcting that, because moving forward, we are now, really working together. even as we think about expanding this project, we have been working together to, write proposals, to get money to expand this. And, when you write a proposal, it involves thinking and conceptualizing and. So we are beginning to correct that so that we are all included. And one of the things which I like about Vasiliki especially is that she's always saying, this, can you share this with Dr. Mabena? Let's hear what he says. So that is part of just including, which is really quite important. You might not understand the academic language that we might use sometimes, which is a bit, makes everything inaccessible, but I always try to explain to him that, look, this is the direction that we're looking at. And then if he's happy, which he's always happy to do, he always gives his ideas. So it was a challenge because, as you mentioned, there was no time, so when we started off at that level, but now we are kind of slowing down. And as we look forward, going to the future, we are kind of balancing that and bringing all of us on board. So if we have a social justice, social gem too, or what is it called again? Yeah, we will, it will be different, certainly, I think, yeah.
Thank you so much. So there's a lot of learning that happened from that. And I think that links nicely with the question we have from our audience. You are asked, well, I'm going to read what my colleague Rob actually says here. I wonder if panelists can share some reflections about equity specifically. How is it perceived in the project? How was it perceived? And is your understanding changing at all? What do you consider important regarding equity in collaboration? I suspect some of the bits you mentioned already speak to that, but is there something you would like to add? Maybe also Vasiliki?
Yeah.
Yes, can I add something before okay. Okay, how do we perceive equity? Yes, my understanding has changed. I would start from the funding application. I think it was very inequitable in terms of the funding. The funding came to the University of Leeds, and then we had to develop a memorandum of understanding and navigate very difficult processes of how do we share funding with the University of Pretoria. I think if you're starting this kind of collaboration, people need to come together and apply together, and there is a clear understanding of how the funding is allocated. I think another thing that needs to happen from the start, it is the coming together, but it is clarifying what are the priorities of the partners, what are their needs, and there need to be benefits for everyone that is involved in a collaboration, and this need to be clear from the start. I think this honesty, and I appreciate this from our community partners. I really like that they came to us and they said, yes, you reached out to us. What is it that you want from us? Why are you coming to us? How do we benefit? I mean, they were very clear in what they were saying. So you really need to clarify all those things from the start. There will be challenges on the way. At some point, some people may contribute more to something, may not contribute, may have difficulty contributing, but really being transparent and really reflective while you are doing something. Is this okay? Do we need to consider another dimension? Are we reaching the people we are supposed to reach? Are we actually working towards those benefits that we said? And another dimension of equity was certainly about knowledge. Yeah. There was so much discussion about power asymmetry between university and community. And the idea that we live in ivory towers and we believe that what we know is the only thing worth knowing and worth sharing with the world. But, the on the ground knowledge, practical knowledge, indigenous knowledge, all this type of knowledge is so beneficial for people that sometimes we forget, sometimes we produce knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Maybe this is a good thing as well, but we really need to stop and consider how this knowledge links with the realities of society. So yes, I think the evaluation, we were better at the end. I mean, we started aligning more towards the end. in evaluating the project. But yes, now we have some learnings to move forward by. But yes, Tafadzwa.
Yeah, so Vasiliki, you've mentioned, recognizing those asymmetries and these differences and making sure that there's that space to redistribute, be it the voice, or is it the visibility, or is it the power? And you also talked about knowledge, which was really quite important, giving, everyone a chance to, and allowing that, and appreciating rather that there's different kinds of knowing and ways, of understanding things, and bringing all that on board, I think was really a key point of the social justice gem. So to add to that, I think another important aspect of equity is really creating conditions for participation. And I think we managed to do that quite successfully in the way we structured the gem, the different kind of plenary sessions, where sometimes, some people feel they cannot speak in big groups, but are more kind of relaxed to speak in smaller groups and stuff. So we had that just to make sure that we create those conditions for everyone to have a chance to, at least participate. And then, of course, it's about just practicing care and, and just being accountable and, just ensuring that the collaboration does not, reproduce certain undesirable, ways of doing things. So just being aware that we want this to be as acceptable to everyone from different contexts, different positionalities, as much as we can as possible. I think that's what we kind of had in mind when we were thinking about the gem and when we're operationalizing it, I think. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a very insightful response from both of you, and I hope, Rob, that answers your question. If not, please continue the conversation here in the chat, and obviously we can stay connected with our wonderful guests as well after the session today. We have one more question here, observation from Elizabeth McGowan. Thanks for the really interesting insights. So one thought you may, what we would like to ask here is about communities and what is meant by communities and working with communities. How do we manage the dynamics, not just between the community and academics and students, you talked about that, but also potentially other stakeholders. What would you say to that? Thank you. So we talked about communities, but we didn't really define what we mean by community. Perhaps we start with this.
Yeah, so that's a very important question and also a very difficult question. As someone who has worked with communities, I can tell you that communities are not homogeneous. They are heterogeneous. They are various levels, social scales that define what communities are, by gender, by class, by whatever. So they are not homogeneous, and they are also power struggles within what we might see from outside is just, a normal community that's operating in a standard way. So when you are planning to go into a community, it's very important just to understand that this is not a homogeneous community. There's going to be differences in terms of how they think and what they're interested in, and so on and so forth. So I don't know if I can go into the into the depths of trying to describe what a community is, but I think the long and short of it is just understand that they are not homogeneous. They are different in many aspects. It could be just, on many different social kind of scales, in class and etc. So yeah, so when you're working with communities, it's just important to be aware of those differences, and that will be the starting point for any project that you might want to think of that involves community, and to be and to know the entry channels. I don't know how it is in that part of the world, but here communities have certain also administrative structures that may be political structures that, when you're going to Mamelodi, you have to go through this particular channel before you get to speak to so and so and so and so. So you also need to be aware of those kind of administrative structures. If it's in the more rural areas, we have chiefs, headmen, and so you need to understand that as well before you can actually then start engaging with the rest of the community. But then also being aware that those different kind of are also political structures in themselves, and they can also be a hindrance to, you know, how you do your work and how you do your kind of. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but just to share with you, you know, what a community can look like sometimes and how you can navigate how it is structured. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I will talk about Seacroft. So yes, Seacroft is a geographical area within the Leeds City Council, but as Tafadzwa said, it is a very diverse area in terms of people and socioeconomic background and views and political beliefs and all of this. But what I understood from working with Seacroft is that you really need to work with community-based organizations. So there are many organizations in Seacroft that could act as gatekeepers to the community, I would call it like that. They have a coalition that is called We Are Seacroft. They are actually trying to build the sense of community in the residents of that geographic area. So it is not necessary that because people live in that area, and different parts of that area are very different. I have visited the area, so I know firsthand. So they are trying to build this kind of common identity, try to identify what are the challenges of living in the different parts of Seacroft, what would the needs of the residents be, how they can work together to address those needs, how they can work with diverse perspectives. I think those organizations are a real asset when working with communities. They really understand from the ground what is going on. And I think for me, it helped me manage my relationship with the community.
Thank you so much, both of you. And when we talk about working with community, I know both of you already mentioned some aspects of this. Is there anything you would like to add? You talked about being mutually beneficial and actually having an impact and value for the communities themselves, not just for you know, higher education or the universities that are involved in a project. Vasiliki, you also talked about diverse outputs potentially that will help, you know, disseminate knowledge, and you talked about music and other outputs. It could be also a book, but potentially a picture book. I've worked on projects like this before. Any thoughts on this as a final question?
Can I add something? Because we had a collaboration through a student this summer, the summer that went, through with the local community of Seacroft. And we realized that having a student mediate the relationship was great. The other thing,
in what way?
So the student was not seen as intimidating as an academic going to the community, because we really wanted to flip this power asymmetry where we invited the community, let's come online on a platform that is built for universities maybe, and it's managed by universities. We went there, we went in the community. The student managed the workshops that we did. We tried to forget that we went as academics. We tried to forget about research ethics, for example, because if we went there saying to them, you are participants of a research project, you really need to sign a consent form, they would have just left the workshop. So we tried to speak their language, and our students helped a lot in that. So the people started talking about how do they see, they started with a prompt. What is Seacroft for you? What is the sense of community you want to develop? And then they started talking about Seacroft, challenges, what are also the good aspects of Seacroft? And then we talked to them, do you want to develop some kind of way to speak to the outside world about Seacroft, about who you are? And they chose to take photographs of Seacroft. And it was really great to do that, because if we had asked some other kind of research method and we went there, you know, let's talk about your community, but let's use our research methods and impose them to you so you can talk about your community, I don't think it would have worked. So we forgot a lot about how to do academic work in an academic context, and tried to do it, you know, how they would like to do it. Actually, we asked them, forget about why we're here. What is it that you want to tell us? This is how we worked in the summer.
Yeah. I don't think I even want to add anything. I think I'll just summarize to say, if you want to work with communities successfully, make them central to the challenge. And make them lead. You know, they know exactly what they want and how they want things done. So like Vasiliki says, forget about your scientific protocols and methods, and this is how we do it from point A to, you know, let them hold, essentially they should hold our hand through, you know, through the process. And we should allow for that exchange of knowledge, because they're also quite open to learning from us, and they really look at us, unfortunately, as experts, yet they are also equally experts. And I think, so just being out there, allow them to lead, but just having that openness for that flow of information to happen. I think that's what I would consider working with communities. And so when you do that, even the solutions that might come out of a project will be solutions that they've been part of co-creating and producing. And so it's, when it comes also to the research uptake, it doesn't become a problem, because we so often do projects when it comes to research uptake, it's a flop, because communities were nowhere. They were not part of the design, they were not part of anything, and yet you're now forcing them, you know, to uptake, you know, to take some of these products that they don't understand. So involve them, involve them, involve them. That's it.
Can I add something? So thank you, Tafadzwa. It was great, but Sarifa mentioned something in the chat, and I completely agree. What the community asked us from those workshops is specifically, they went to our students and they said, now that you engage with us in this workshop, we shared our photos with you. What is your reflection about the community of Secret? Has it changed your understanding? So they asked the student to develop a reflective report and share it with them. And they also wanted to share those photos externally. So they thought that a collage of those photos with some quotes would be an appropriate format. And it was shared in an arts event that they organized in the summer. So yes, they can also co-create the output. And they feel comfortable with that, and they find a way to do it, you know, in the way that is meaningful as well.
Thank you so much, Tafadzwa and Vasiliki, for such an insightful conversation. And I think we could go on for a little bit longer, or a lot longer, because it has been a rich experience, and you are very generous with sharing your experiences and thoughts about it. I would like to close the session, but this is a beginning. We heard, and I think there are many ideas of further exploration, especially what you said there at the end about the ethics in equity, and how collaborations should be really partnerships that, you know, start, like you said, Tafadzwa, from the very beginning, together, a joint journey that is mutually beneficial and helps us create these relationships that will be the strong foundations to develop trust and actually have a good time together, you know, because I've seen you and Vasiliki working together, and that brings also joy, which is important. But through these relationships, actually increase impact and reach as well, and make a difference with the communities. Thank you so much, both of you, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Like we said near the beginning, we will be having another session on the 22nd of October, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.